Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod with Jack Gordon. He's CEO at Amer Cloud Holdings. This podcast is brought to you by my podcasting company. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcasts or find sponsors, you can go to podwire.com. Jack, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about Amer Cloud.
Hi there. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I started Amer Cloud a number of years ago. I'm a little bit of a serial entrepreneur, and as I started developing different ideas, I realized I needed a smarter structure for them. So Amer Cloud is actually the holding company that holds three of my existing current companies, and that just sold the biggest one over the summer that I'd exited. So that's Amer Cloud.
Tell us about that exit. What was that company and how did that exit feel?
Yeah, so that company was Web Recon, and what we did there was we identified high-risk consumers for companies that communicate with consumers. So, for instance, call centers, collection agencies, creditors, things like that. Companies that communicate with consumers are bound by, it's a regulated industry, right? They're bound by laws, statutes here in the States that if they violate those laws, it creates very painful lawsuits for them that they have to defend. So what Recon did was we identified the consumers out there who abuse those laws, right? They may not have been abused by a collection agency, but they still sue the collection agency because they know they know their rights. And generally speaking, it's cheaper for a collection agency or another company like that to settle a lawsuit than it is to defend it. So there are consumers who know how that game is played. They sue every company that contacts them, and Web Recon identified them for the companies so that they could avoid that risk. So I built that up over the last 15 years. I actually started it out of the ruins of a collection agency that I owned back then. That was a very difficult business for me to run. Ultimately, I couldn't make it. I had to get out. I started Web Recon from that with my experience in that industry, built it up over 15 years. It was a wonderful experience, a successful company. And selling it felt, I got to tell you, amazing. It grew to the point, beyond the point that I felt like I was still the right person to run it, which I hope every one of your listeners has that experience at some point.
And was it relief from the pain that this business caused or the cash that come with it?
Well,
why was it so hard to manage this business? Like, was it very uncomfortable to go after people that didn't pay their bills, or?
I'll answer that. I'll change the question just a little bit. It's not necessarily that it was so difficult to manage, as much as I'm an inventor, right? I like to tinker with ideas. I like to develop ideas, build cool stuff, and when a company grows to a certain size, that means hiring employees. It means HR. It means in the case of a regulated industry, it means there's a lot of regulatory burden that comes along with it, right? I mean, as the company grew bigger and bigger, the management challenges, I think, got more serious. And I realized at one point that that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what gave me energy and made me happy, right? Managing people. I take my hat off to the people who are good at stuff like that. That's not what I want to do with my life. I want to build cool stuff and sell it.
There you go. So with your current holding company, what are these companies that bring out the builder in you?
One of them is, so let's see, being in the collection space previously, I had a pretty good foundation in the challenges of that industry. And back in, oh gosh, maybe 2011, a good friend of mine in the industry approached me about building a course that would teach debt collectors, particularly, how to stay in compliance with the primary law that regulates them. And that was a moment in time that it felt like there was an opportunity there. And so, we bootstrapped that, right? I started it with if any of your listeners are aware of a software called Moodle, which is a gigantic open source nightmare of a learning management system in LMS. It's so powerful and can do so many things, but it's really, really hard to learn and wrangle it. We started it with that, and then we're adding on functionality to it, and it was really inelegant and messy. So about 2015, I asked my main developer if he could fix some of the problems that we were having for things like elegant team management and complex testing, which Moodle actually handled pretty well. But other things, we had problems we needed to solve, and that led to the whole process of uh, uh, us building the really hard parts of an LMS that we could then incorporate into the software that we were using. At some point, a light bulb went off, and we realized, what? We built the really hard parts of this. Why not just go all the way and build in the rest of it? Have our own completely, again, elegant. I use that word a lot, right? But our own unique platform that can manage all of the hard parts of running a compliance-based LMS, right? Something that could handle tough regulatory laws. And so we built it. And not only now do we run our collection training course on it, but now I own the software and have started developing other ideas, right? Other courses, other industries that we can incorporate into it. And so that I did not start out there for sure. That evolved, but we saw the opportunities. So that's two of the three companies, right? The software itself, the training course, and then the third one is my creative outlet. I sell trade show displays, the backdrops that you see when you go into an exhibit hall of a conference, and that's just fun.
Right. And that holdco, what is your plan with it? Why multiple startups? Do you want to hire COOs to manage each of them? What's your plan with the holdco itself?
Yeah, I don't ever want to have employees again, right? That's one of the lessons I learned out of Web Recon. I should clarify, I had some really great employees. I love them. It was a good team. But just the act of managing people is not something I want to do. The businesses that I build from this point on, if I can't run them with myself and maybe a couple of freelancers, then I would probably be building them with the aim of selling them off.
I fully understand that. So nowadays, is it building with systems and AIs instead of employees?
But yeah, absolutely. So I've begun investing myself into figuring out the opportunities using AI to help, to where it can fit in with each of these business opportunities. So I'm not going to say that I've cracked that necessarily yet. I've certainly used AI to help, for instance, in the selling of trade show displays. Right, I've got a website, cheaperdisplays.com, that AI has helped me quite a bit in coming up with a lot of the helping, for instance, remove backgrounds on photos of displays, coming up with better description, sales description, right? I mean, that's the cop out way to use AI, right? That's easy. I think the opportunity with AI. Let me say that differently. I think almost all of us are missing the boat, right? We're dramatically underutilizing the power of AI, and so my goal is to figure out how to really unlock it and make it do things that I could never even imagine doing, right? And I think that opportunity is there. it's hard to find it though. I think that's the business challenge for all of us now.
So what's your plan in terms of 2024? Like, how do you want to spend your energy onto each businesses, and what financial objectives have you set for each?
Well, I want to do more scuba diving in 2024. I think that's my primary goal. I actually I did accept a position to stay on at Web Recon. So I'm actually transitioning into more of a business development role there, and transitioning out of a lot of the operations that I didn't want to do. I'll keep doing that for the foreseeable future, as long as that makes sense. Because I really do love that company, right? So that's one thing. In terms of the others, I think one of the reasons that I wanted to sell Web Recon, one of the other reasons is because I do have these other companies that I still own, and they've all suffered for they've all suffered for the attention that I give to Web Recon. So having the opportunity to focus more on them, to start scaling them, I think getting better myself at advertising, finding some freelance resources that can really help me scale those other opportunities. I think that's my big goal now, is to do better at all of the businesses in the portfolio.
And it seems that you faced a couple of challenges in the last few years with the businesses. How did you overcome these, and what solutions did you found to these problems?
Excuse me, just one second. Sorry about that.
So the challenges and the solutions.
Yeah, well, so I'm going to say listen, there's no bigger challenge than failing at a business, right? Especially one that you get everything invested into. I bought that collection agency around 2004 and sold it at the end of 2008, just as the economy was crashing. Those 4 years were bar none the hardest of my life, right? And when I sold that, I wanted to do nothing more than to crawl under a rock and die. In some ways, I think the desperation of the economy crashing really didn't give me any options in terms of just going out and getting a new job, right? That was very clarifying for me. Getting out from under that collection agency, reevaluating everything, figuring out what resources I had left, which really weren't many, and realizing that there were no easy jobs out there, no easy solutions, no obvious direction to go. Like I said, that was very clarifying for me, and that helped kind of point me in the direction of figuring out if I'm going to survive, right? If I'm going to go forward, there really only felt like one direction to go, which was developing this idea now for Web Recon. And I was just incredibly fortunate. I worked hard. I worked really, really hard. But I was also incredibly fortunate that, I sort of, the timing was right. And I was able to capture, lightning in a bottle with that. After going through something like that, other challenges seem really tame in comparison. The challenge again of things like managing staff, maybe who aren't always getting along, managing, nobody likes to be sued, but it happens, business litigation, the obvious, always, ever-present challenge of growing sales, right, and building systems that are sustainable, to keep sales growing. Those are all things that, I think those are common challenges, and I wasn't as good at all of them as I wished I was. but I kept my, keeping my head down and trying to stay focused and trying to, always find ways to do a little better, or recognizing when, when it just wasn't going to be me to do something, and finding another way to solve those problems, right? Bringing in the right people for the job. Those are, I feel like those are all things you learn. And you're almost learning externally and learning internally about yourself, and not only what you can handle, but what you want to handle. Yeah.
These are good tips, and thank you for sharing that today. Jack, where can people find out more about you online?
Well, LinkedIn, I guess, would be the place to go. Jack Gordon. I think for most people, I come right up. Amer Cloud, Jack Gordon Amera Cloud, I think would be the easy way to find me there. And I'm always happy to talk to people. I love having the entrepreneurial journey conversation with anybody who likes to have that. I feel like I've been through a lot. We only touched on the surface today, but I do enjoy helping people like evaluate their ideas and give any advice that I think I can.
Thank you. That was Jack Gordon and Charles Cormier, your host as the CEO of wisdompodcast.com.